Gasali was born in the small rural village of Okatedo in Osun State, Nigeria. He trained at the Nike Center for Arts and Culture in Lagos, mastering the arts of batik, indigo dyeing, quilt making, embroidery, and applique. Since 1996, Gasali has been exhibiting his artwork internationally and traveling the world to lead workshops and share his experience with indigo and the traditional textile arts of the Yoruba community. It is my great pleasure to welcome Gasali to the Twin Cities and to Textile Center. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Christine, for very warming welcoming. And it's good to be here. Thank you for having me here at the center here and for the whole organization who have a confidence and believe in me. And I believe this afternoon, I would call it evening in Nigeria. My mother, she was smiling right now in the heaven. Like, thank you, my son, for what you've been doing. So this is who made me who I am today. And it's a journey I took as a young kid. And I've been telling a lot of my students this morning, this afternoon, or day in the class, when I was a young kid, what I've been doing. And the journey you took in Africa, I was born to 5 children. We have 3 boys and 2 girls. But how blessed I am because of the parents, both parents who raised me as a young kid. My mother was a midwife, and my father was a farmer. He just do a regular business job, and what is put me to the passion of all African blue and my life in indigo. That is why that is what I want to kind of express to this evening to everybody, that indigo is not ordinary dye. And I was born, as Christine just said, in a small village in Nigeria, where like 2,000-3,000 people. We almost know each other. We just do only farming, only just daily get by everyday life. And grew up in a beautiful community. This is the person I choose because I was very blessed to know who is my father of my dad, which I didn't really know very well, but I really know the mother of my mom. So for being see the Adire cloth in my own environment, and for being see the indigo, that is what I've been little pay attention. But when you're young, you don't really pay attention so much until when I was growing up, like age of 15, 16. And your grandparents, they do a lot, sometimes more than your actually mother. So that is what I see from my great-grandparents. That is why I said this came from next generation, from family after the family. And that is my goal, what I want to leave with my children to come in the future. That is where I was born raised before I came to the United States in 1996. I just do my basic, only my little life things to get by in Africa and do my beautiful dyeing. And for the question, a lot of people keep asking me, do you have your own indigo farm? I say, I don't have any indigo farm. Indigo, people been to Nigeria, especially in Yoruba land, where I grew up in the area. Indigo grow wide, they grow by themselves. And that is how sorry, I was trying to change it. So that is how people ask me, like, wow, how big your indigo farm was. I said, I don't have indigo farm. It just go by themselves everywhere. And we just talked about that in the class not too long ago, right now. And when the people go to the market, you can buy indigo himself in the open market in Nigeria. That is why people ask you sometimes, like, oh, how many people see? Why do you need so many to dye? Because you can go collect your dye in your own farm. And I said, well, I don't mean to buy so much. Nobody gets sick. That's why I openly up to people that indigo is not ordinary dye. People, they buy the dye in the open market, they use them as a medicine, as a healing, to heal a lot of people, which is, yeah. And the reason why I saw the first slide is just, it just make me my identity. Because first time in Minnesota, in Minneapolis, but the brother who picked me up at the airport yesterday, he's from Ethiopia, or I know it's from Africa, but I forgot the African country he's from. But he can read my accent right away. He said, "Oh," I said, "Where are you from?" He said, "Oh, brother, Nigeria, right?" I said, "How do you know?" He said, "Of course I know." So that made me so happy, like, wow. If I didn't even wear my all the outfits, I just put my indigo hat on. I think that's why you can spot me right there, like Yoruba. I say, of course, I'm Yoruba. That is why I love to share this first page, because when I first came to United States in '96, I don't know you have to carry your identification. But this is tell people in my own culture. Anywhere I go, they look my outfit. They say, "Oh, he's a Yoruba man." So that is so many impact. The fiber was kind of take in my own environment in Nigeria. Sometimes I don't like to show the map of Nigeria, but I said, let me just show it. People can see the environment I grew up is very tropical and it rained a lot. And as I said, we are only 3 different groups. And that is why the fiber is kind of identify who we are and where we belong to, and the environment. Also, we grew up in Nigeria. And this is where my story of my life beginning, because people even always ask me anytime I give a lecture or when I teach a classes all over the globe, they say, "Oh, when I was in Nigeria in September, my elderly son who live in DC right now, I have to take him to this spot in Osogbo because I have to go pay the respect to this woman, which is called Iyamako Atiba. Because right now we are doing the divert in the class this afternoon before we end the class this afternoon. So this is the first woman who helped us identify what is indigo plant look like in the century. And we have a lot of respect, although she's not with us anymore here, but her spirit, she never leave us, because grew up as a young kid in early 70. There is a 2 plant was acting like indigo in my environment. The other one is called Ijokun, and this other one is called Elu plant. So Ijokun is a fake dye. Elu is the original, the color we're looking for. And that is the woman who helped us to identify, which is, I'm going to come back to the story about this woman, how much she's so important to us. And as we talk all the time, like music and art, they are brother and sister. So when somebody want to sing it, they're not trying to make you upset. But when you don't behave yourself, we can sing a song about this plant called Ijokun o. Wọ́n ṣe ẹ̀lú aró ló láṣọ ìjòkùn o. Wọ́n ṣe ẹ̀lú aró. Somebody said, "Oh, so you call me fake dye?" I said, "I don't mean to call you fake dye, but..." So because Ijokun was trying to trick us back in the day, like, "Oh, I'm indigo, but you are not really indigo." So somebody doesn't behave when they sing that song, they calm down. I don't want to act like a fake. I'm a real person. So we use a lot of things in our own environment. So people being to Osogbo, you can see what I wrote. Arumbeni Osogbo, Osogbo se Wunilo. because people like to visit my hometown because of the Indigo. And it's not only my hometown in Nigeria who have Indigo. So when I go about my life, I could not leave these people you see in the picture behind. That is my mom in the middle. She left 2 years ago during the pandemic, but I was so blessed to have a last conversation with my mother before I came back to the United States. And I told her the day she passed, I was in Cleveland, Ohio. I was teaching that day. But only God of nature, God of mother know what is going on. I just spoke to her. I said, how you doing? With this, I say it in Yoruba that, oh, are you having dinner already? He said, no, they are preparing my dinner. And that is our last conversation. Until when I try to call him, the phone doesn't ring anymore. And I call my brother, what is going on? So this is my mother who made me who I am today when I first speak this afternoon. She gave me life because when I was a young kid, what is her passion is to protect the tradition, which is not only about the dying. That is why I call her, she's a midwife. When they call somebody midwife in your own community, she have a lot of responsibility to care for young children who are struggling, even people expecting, people in the middle of pregnancy, when they have a baby. When I was a young kid, I see a lot of people run to my mom's house to come and talk to her like, oh, yeah, Gasali, yeah, Sikiru, yeah, Dauda, Gasali's mom, we need your help. That is why I know the day my mom passed away, how many people respond before they lay her to rest when I see the video. My mom, you don't even tell me you know so many people like this in your life. So people she give life to, they come back to pay last respect to who is she. So midwife, my father was a healer. So my brother take my father's step as a healing people in the community. So that is how things glow with my life. Like, this is the only thing we have. How do we protect it? How do we make it is still going on? It doesn't vanish. It doesn't go anywhere. So basically what I was teaching here this week is not my improvise. The design everybody was applying in the paste today is our symbol. It's a message. And before I go too far on this one, this is me when I was learning at the place called Onireke Art Gallery, Textile Center for Art and Culture. I spent 10 years studying at the school in Nigeria. You might see some of my work here today like, oh, I thought he was here to teach only Indigo. Why he have so many color, which is called batik, tie-dye. Some of the colorful one, that is where I go to school. She's even so, when I call her my mentor, I don't even say that anymore. I call her my mom because she gave me life. She bring me in even before my mom passed to take care of me and to follow her step too. Who is she? And that's why when I go to Nigeria, the first thing when I land in Lagos, I go see her first and say hello and say thank you. So those are the two people I passed through them before I make who I am today. And this is my little beautiful village and my picture right here, Area Jueda, my journey. Because people ask me, how long you been doing this before you get to this point? It's a long story. But what is my dad always told me, it won't be easy. But it doesn't mean you have to give up. It will be a lot of bumpy road. Just keep going. One day you will see yourself. And I hold that in my left hand because we believe anything our grandparents told us, they said, keep it right here on your left hand. Because if you put it right on your right hand, they think you're going to hit with it. You hold it right here so it doesn't go to your mouth. So anyway, That is our proverb we use, that we make sure we listen to what they tell us. So this is my passion, passing the knowledge. I think I say a little bit in my class. I go to a lot of public school in New Mexico. I love to work with a young kid because I like the idea, because they're trying to grow in their mind and they talk to me. That is my workshop in Kolkata in India. And I work with a lot of designers in LA who like to go to my website and they see how my work is related to life of the human being. What is the transform of what they see of my design, the symbol, and the message they get from it. And before I go too far, anybody who ever be able to see the movie called Women King, it's now on Netflix. So you can see some of Gasali work on that big screen with Viola Davis. You can see them on the background. That is some of my Adire and my batik. So they contact me from South Africa and I said, how do you find me? They said, oh, we saw your page on Instagram and we read it. And then we went to your website. So when they see my website, they say, oh, wow, this is fit with the story we want to write on the Women King. That is why I was part of the costume who designed the clothes to make the fabric to wear. They select like 5 different artists from Africa, but I represent Nigeria for that. So this is my passion, to pass the knowledge. And this is where the story beginning. Aro Ibile, Indigo. I'm sure my student pay attention in the class, like, what did he wrote on the board? Because people say, oh, I thought it's Indigo, but we have a name also we call it. Aro Ibile means traditional dye, which is came from the plant. And that's what I was explaining this afternoon. It's a very fresh, like spinach. It grow wide. The first rainy season in my environment, this is what you see. Indigo is glow everywhere. And how do we make it a little ball? Because dry season, everything disappears. So we need to have them in stock to be able to work with them. So that is how the ball look like. And they see it in the class to create the fermentation. And it transformed to the medicine as a healing for cure the stomach virus. That is why someone write a book called Indigo is Not Ordinary Dye, which is 100% true. People said, do you inject it? Do you heat it? Can you cook it with the food? You can do it in other way your healing or babalawo or medicine man told you to use it. Before I pass this, when we use the indigo, people say, what do you do with them after you finish with the plant, after you finish with the liquid, leftover indigo wick vat? There's nothing go waste. Someone just asked me in the class, when I collect everything we soak right now this afternoon, I'm gonna bring them back with me to Albuquerque. I have a brother, he's a healing man. He always asks me when I'm done with this indigo we dye with, he wants to use it for his medicine. And then people ask sometimes, why do you need Gasali leftover indigo? Why you cannot go collect your own indigo in the jungle? There is a connection between the dyer and the medicine man. That is why people get like little confused, like, I didn't understand what you mean. Because they need the one they already put the fabric into before you can make the work they want them to do. And then the liquid, which is called osuku. Osuku arrow means the wick vat. Any medicine man you walk to their house, in their living room, the first thing you see there is a big jar, big bottle with a blue dye inside. That is the wick vat. It tastes like a plain yogurt, very fermented. It's a little long story because I grew up in the polygamy environment where people can have 2 wives, 3 wives. It's not really the way people think anymore. My father had a 2 wife and remained only my mom when I was growing up. So in the family where we grew up in the environment, there's a lot of envy. There's a lot of jealousy. People throw something in your food. When you look around or you go to the bathroom, you don't know what is it. So, but when you eating it, you feel like your stomach was on fire. It was really burning. So the first thing the medicine man can look for is the weak vat. And they ask you, open your mouth. They pour it in a little spoon. You drink it. In like a couple of minutes, you can see your stomach was settled down. So people say, really? Any place you visit in Nigeria, if you go to the healing man, just say, oh, do you carry the indigo wig vat in your house? It will show them to you. They have to have it it's like an emergency. It have to be in the house all the time. So that is how, and this was a video. I don't know if you can play the video. Maybe it's just kind of see how the indigo was oxidized and kind of transparent from the green to the blue. And
yeah. Can I start it?
I don't think you have any volume, but what he's doing right now, I was just talking about oxidation. And that is what we're going to see in the class. When we take it out in like 2-3 minutes, when it oxidizes, it changes to blue. It's like a chameleon. They change. So people say, oh, I want it to be green, but you see, that is how it looked when it came out, like very metallic because the dye was so strong. And that is how it looked before it kind of glow between the hair out. And I love to not stay in my own territory in Nigeria. That is why I like to travel along the border of Nigeria, which is Ghana, because a lot of people visit my area in Osogbo. They say, oh, why do you keep your pot on the surface? Why do they bury the pot on the ground? Everything needs to do with the weather, how cold it gets in the night. But when I visit northern part of Ghana a long time ago, I said, oh, I need this picture. Because in the northern part of Nigeria, this is how they do the indigo vat in the north. The same thing. That is why I said, wow, this is amazing. But when you go to northern part of Ghana, the weather kind of dropped below 60 degrees. And that is why you see they have to do the same thing. People visit the northern part of Nigeria, Jos, Kaduna, all those parts of the place. That is why the indigo cannot stay in the surface when we dye it. And this is our dye pot in the southwest of Nigeria. You can see how many pots, because it's a continued vat. We go from one pot to another. Even when another one came out, we recycle it from the old one to the new one before we can transform them to any medicine people they need it to use. And this is all the technique. Wake me up every day. But it's more than this of my knowledge about Adire and batik and tie-dye. And that is most of things you see on the table in my work this evening. So as I said, a lot of them is not my improvise. It's all about message between people say, oh, wow, why do they write okay in the piece of fabric? It's all about, you can see a little round circle, which is called mosquito coil. Also, we call it record. which is turntable, the DJ use. I'm sure people still have those in the house when they play music. So that is mostly the life we live in and what we use in the environment. And that is what we transform as a piece of art to be seen for the generation to come as a young kid. And Adire Alabella, which is batik, wax resist. That is why today when I was doing a little kind of show with the student, like open the Adire cloth, when they look, the back is solid blue, but the front have a design. So that's why we see the difference between use the wax and use the cassava. And this is how I apply my batik. I use a sponge as a foam rubber to create the design. Then I have to boil it in a fire pit outside to get all the wax out. People say, oh, I thought you iron it and take it to dry cleaner. I have to boil everything out. So when I cook the wax out, the color is already set and nothing is gonna run. It's fixed already. I just want to share this because people say, oh, do you use a stamp? I use everything by hand to paint with slowly. And I have a video which I'm gonna play here really quick if it come up. I think it will. It's how I make my sponge with the scissors. I teach this a lot in my class or in public school in Santa Fe. I call it's a cheap way of making batik because it's a foam we use for the couch. You can buy them at the Michael's or any craft store. Then I make it with a little pen, Sharpie, and that is what I dip in the wax. And then when you start put the wax on it, it carry your mind away. That is why I call it's my therapy. Because when I do batik in my studio, my elderly son always asking me like, how come you smiling by yourself? I said, what happened? He said, it doesn't seem like you're here. I said, son, I'm not here. He said, where are you? I said, I don't know. I'm in mid. Because when I was doing batik, and I see that in a lot of students in my class, people talk to them sometimes, but they are not here because they are traveling with their mind. That is why I call it batik. It's a way of me to express my feeling, to tell my story on my pieces you see right here tonight. And then what you see right here, you can use it for like 2-3 months. When you finish, you just drain the wax from it, and then you can see the same sponge is what I used to create this design as a hand painted. And I don't really focus in only white fabric and indigo. I use a basic color fabric. You just have to be 100% cutting and how you control your wax method before you apply it. Adire, eleko, and this is where I'm gonna break it down. Adi, are, adire, eleko, which is mean anything you paint, anything you resist. And that is what we call it. And this is called cassava. It's a very important food. And that is how long work it go to it in my culture. After we soak it for several days, you have to dry. This is my sister in Nigeria. Because we eat cassava. We make cassava bread, cassava fufu, anything you can think as a dessert. So cassava saved our life. It took like 2-3 years to grow before we can harvest it and before we can make it to all the recipe. So it's a very long processing. And that is what makes me so drawn and so much sink into Adire method, because it reversed my brain, my mind all the time. Like, how did my grandparents think that they can apply the cassava into the fabric and it can work? That is what really still makes me to today. Because people took my class, when they applied, they say, you think this is gonna work? But it works because of the starch. And there's a different method. This is what we begin with today. stencil, they see all my hand cut stencil, and we apply the cassava. And then this afternoon, we close up with a chicken feather, small broom, and a small knife to create the hand painted. And this is the result. The same thing we did today. It looked gluey. And then when they dry, you dye it, you flip it, you just solid blue in the back. It just have to dry for a certain time. When you dye it, we are talking about that until when we see it in a couple days, how long they can stay in the dye vat before you took them out. You have to time yourself. If not, everything will fall out. And that is what we are trying to processing right now, before the end of the week. And my lovely mosquito coil, and also I call it record. So it's a stencil I use when I put a paste. I'm sure I have a piece like that on the table I brought with me, but I don't left it home. So you dye with indigo and record. And this is cassava also, and my favorite hand painted, which is every design. The one said, okay, in that okay, the design was called matches. Because in the olden days, before the matches came, my grandparents used to smack two rocks together to create a fire. And then so on, the record, the mosquito coil, we have music, which is the gauge, barbed wire, mirror, and then compound. So all the design is so symbol and is so motif, which is send the message from another one place to another. So which is, it's a repeating pattern. We don't really change it. And this is another beautiful piece I make. It's called Lift Up Your Bead, So Baby. It's a way when you're walking around area in Africa, even I'm sure in United States, people wear the bead around their waist. And then lift up bead means when people are dancing in Africa, the bead was flying everywhere. But because we don't want the fight of your husband. That's why they say lift up your bead means cover your bead up. So we don't want to know the color of the bead anybody wearing. So you see, that is how life was living in the environment where we grew up in Nigeria. Adire Oniko, Alabere, we're going to get to that one by tomorrow or by Thursday, which is Oniko represent tie-dye. And I have a short video, which is my students we're going to be able to do that in the class as well. It doesn't have any volume. It's a fold cut pleating. And that pleating, we call it cowrie shell. Also, we call it, people say they look like amoeba. But I say it's not amoeba. It's a cowrie shell, we call it. Also, we call it razor blade. And cowrie shell is mostly, and what I was talking there without no volume is just how tight the tie-dye could be. That is why when you look on the table, some of my t-shirts, I was wearing one of my shorts today, have a little polka dot. And that is why I tie them with the grass. So when the dye trying to get in, they cannot be able to expose to the indigo. And that's why you can see the whiteness of my t-shirt and the way they contrast before I dye them. And you have to knot it twice. And then when you press it, they look like there's a little stone inside because they're so compact and the color cannot be able to get in when you dye it. And it's just, I always said tie-dye need a little muscle to get things really tied up. And then even after I cut the string, when I open it up, and also when I teach in public school, I told my student like, oh, tie-dye is like a Christmas present because you don't know what you're gonna get. Okay. It's just like, whoa, look at that. Whoa, look at that. So that is what I told my student. It's like Christmas present. And you can see the pigeon eyes. Pigeon. I'm sure we all know pigeon, right? The one they fly around. Pigeon was a laughing bird in my culture. But when I came to United States, nobody liked pigeon. Because people say, oh, I don't like them because they rip my roof. They poop everywhere. I said, pigeon, and I noticed in the olden days, they used to use pigeon to send a message. They put their letter or something, they fly away. So we don't use that in Nigeria. Yoruba, so we pay ẹyẹlé kì í bónílé jẹ, ó bónílé mu, ó dọjọ́ ìkànnì, ó yẹrí. So pigeon was a loving bird. I think they're watching. I mean, we all sit in this room this evening. Unless if you're talking about your life, nobody will know what is going on in my personal life. You know, that's why they say, be kind, be nice before you approach people, because everybody go through a lot of things in life. And this is based on the pigeon. So this woman was sitting, because people say, wow, how come you call it pigeon house? Because we just kind of let people know when do you need ourselves most? Is it when we doing okay? Or is it when we're trying kind of up and down struggling? Who is going to stick with you, not to let you be by yourself? And then in my culture, pigeon is one of them. This woman was cooking, is age of 85 to 90 years old. She lived in the environment. When I was a young kid, that is the story my parents told me. And her name is Adire. Jire is the name of his son. So suddenly, the neighbor, they just see the smoke coming from the roof. And this woman was sleeping in the house. And all the village, everybody just rushed to that woman. And then when we raise the pigeon in Africa, they go out and they come home to sleep. So suddenly this afternoon, when this happened in the olden days in Nigeria, this pigeon was around in the courtyard. So when people rush him, they say, what are you doing? Your house is on fire. The next thing the woman said, oh, thank you. I'm sorry. He said it in my own language. And he said, oh, where is my pigeon? The only thing she can think of is the pigeon. And the people say, oh, why do you care about your pigeon? You think the pigeon is going to stay when they see the smoke? But unfortunately, the pigeon doesn't go anywhere. They saw the smoke before the people in the environment. The pigeon just lay on the ground until when the woman came out and the people, they dragged the woman out in the fire. They said, oh, your pigeon, they are still here. They thought they'd fly away. As soon as they saw this woman pass by, they just crawling and start to follow her because they know she's still in the house. Until when she get out, they're not gonna leave. And I was telling the same story in the class with one of the, everybody was listening, I'm not sure. The reason why we have a dog in Africa, because dog very appreciate who you are. Even when you feed them every day, they are watching. So when we go to the farm in Africa, most of our dogs, we use them for hunting. They don't even come home. We don't worry. So suddenly, maybe in like an hour, you just see them come out in the middle of nowhere in the house. And then they go outside, they go back inside. So when they move their tail like this, they have a present for you. So because when you go inside, you sit down, they kind of rubbing on you like, let's go, let's go. I was like, what is going on? As soon as you grab your long iron cutlass, then they try to run in front of you. So you walk like a half a mile. When you get to the farm, they keep you a present. They just kill the long rat. And then how do they smart? When they left, they cover them with the leaves So nobody grabbed them. So when we get there, they just open it up. Then they jump on you, then you give them kiss. And people say, how do they know that? Because we think they are animals, but they are very smart. I'm just saying, let me share, because I have a dog like that. We're just talking about the dog in the class today, because people think you don't think they are watching you, how you feeding them. So they're gonna pay back. And that is what happened in this story of the pigeon eyes. My favorite design, moon and stars. And that's what we're gonna begin with tomorrow in the class. The full moon. That is how I miss my grandparents. It's all about story when we have a full moon in Nigeria, because there's no street light. It's only full moon, and you see a lot of beautiful stars. And this is one of my pieces, also dye with indigo, tie-dye. And then I don't have this piece, you might see it on my shirt, but I don't have them on fabric because I can only make 2 pieces of this in a year. I'm going to introduce this in the class too. I love my students to try like 3 or 4 clockwise. This is another tie-dye. It's like a chain. It's very connect. Tie with the string, continue, cut clockwise, keep going, keep going. It's called filler, alakete, which is, we call it belly button, where your circle of your life began in your life. And that is what represent, and it's all tied. And this is my fishbone one, which is we're gonna do in the class. We call it plantain. We call it fishbone. It's all about stitching. And also we call it iko orita meta. What does that mean? Because when we say a lot of design is a healing in my culture. Ikorita meta means, which is crossroad. In the junction of 4-way stop sign, people will wake up in the morning in Africa, somebody just took a shower in the middle of that road. But we don't do it during the day, we do it like a midnight. That is how you go to the healing people. They say, why do you come to see me? They read you with whatever they have in the house. They say, oh, we know what is going on, but we can fix it. They say, what do I need to do? They say, we're gonna give you the soap with a little sponge. So when you wake up, maybe 2 o'clock in the morning or maybe midnight, so you have to make a wish when you go to that junction. So when you finish your shower, you carry your bucket with a little bowl, then you left your sponge. Because in that junction, that is where we reconnect with our ancestors to kind of talk to them with our feeling, what is going on. People say, oh, I don't know why I don't fit in the community. Why people doesn't like me? First. Secondly, maybe people looking for a job, but when you go to that job, it's 50 people want to get that job, but they need only 20 people. How are you gonna get that job? You go see the healing man. As soon as you walk to the job interview, everybody love you. Because when you took that shower in that junction, but the healing man have to ask you, do you believe? Is it gonna work? You say, oh, I believe. And then when you go back, you see the result. When I was a young kid, because we grew up without no shoes in the village, that's why your mom, your parents screaming at you like, Gasali, what are you doing? Don't step on that thing. Somebody came here and washing their problem on the junction. Don't bring it to my house. So, which is really serious, because in that junction, you say, oh my God, why do they leave so many sponge here? Because people are searching for straight path to see their vision, where they can find it. And then People go with me in Africa. We walk down the street in the village. Somebody just placed the fresh food. Just, you can see the food was steamy. Somebody just left it. But you might even see that person when you walk past him or he or she, because that's what they told him to do. Buy like very nice sugarcane. I mean, like chicken. But when what do they call it? The dog went there, they hit it in a little gorge. Then you come back, you pick up your bowl. Then you went to the medicine man, like, how did it go? Do they clean the plate? They say, oh, animal eat it. That's a good sign. You know, there's a lot of disease we fight in human being life. It doesn't need any medication. This is what I was talking about. It just cleared that thing in easy way without take any pill. Like, people have headache. That is one of my mom assignments in the village. They call it migraine headache here, but we call it ori tulu. When you have headache, like constantly, it doesn't go for days after days. My mom asks you to come and see her. And then there's a special soap, which is a black soap. They wash your head 7 times for men, 9 times for women. So in like 2 days, you don't feel that headache anymore. It's gone. Why do you have that headache in our belief in Africa? The same place you went in the junction, maybe somebody just wore something, then you step on them. Then it reacts to your system in your body. You take somebody's, what is they trying to throw away? It went back to someone. So that is how the culture. And my lovely stitching is called bamboo, because we make bamboo with the bed as a storage to kind of store our food after the harvesting, the corn, all kind of thing we grow in the community. Bamboo design is all stitching by machine, the pleating, to get that kind of indigo contrast. And as I said, it identifies who you are. You can see everybody wear it, not for only occasionally. It's just when you wear your work. I mean, I think people close to familiar to Nigeria very much. They Google the happiest people in the world. Nigeria is one of them. The reason why we go through a lot in life, but the reason why we're so happy so much, because sometimes you wake up in the morning. When I was a kid, I don't even know what is for breakfast. I don't even know what is for lunch. But the moment I wear this dress, people ask people in the village, like, oh, what is going on today? Why you look so beautiful? Because he just want to dress so beautiful. He want to be seen like, oh my God, wow, are you going to wedding? Or somebody is getting married or something? He said, no, I just like to be beautiful. So that is why when you put that things on, it makes us special. It puts smile on your face. It puts happiness all the time. And I'm a fabric maker. People sew for me as a seamstress. That is the batik in the middle, my tie-dye, and my mosquito coil, which is called record. I use. And people been to my studio in Santa Fe. This is where I do my work. And I find a loving place, great weather, very not humid, dry heat. That is why when I make the cassava in 2 days, it dry off. Because that is why I could not be able to grow the indigo, because it was a high elevation and it's very dry heat. Unless if I have a greenhouse, it could grow, but not in the public. And indigo brings us together as a loving human being, people you never met in your life. That is why we call the fiber heart. It's like a spider web. We all connect, no matter the background you grow up, we're still the same human being and loving people in the global. Thank you so much, everybody. Please, I'd like to take some questions. Yeah. Please, if you have any question, let me know.
I like it when we go together, though. That's good.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Your Indigo?
Do I want?
Import your Indigo?
I do. I bring them from home. But somebody just asked me just now, like, what happens if they bring them? Do they let them in? It could be 50-50 chance. But what I did, I write a little note on them so that they can read it through the custom. Sometimes they don't let them come in. Sometimes they let them come in.
What is the ideal condition to grow?
What is what?
The ideal conditions to grow.
Oh, the idea, it just,
The best conditions.
oh, the bed condition, you have to live where it's very tropical and it's very humid and it's raining a lot. He doesn't need any cold, like cold weather. No, he can't survive. He needs to be warm, to be hot, and to be tropical and rain a lot. And when I was in Penland last week, people give me the address who live in where it's just always. So I send them the seed. They can try to grow them, and they grow. They grow.
So when you put your fabric into the Indigo, do you do multiple dips, or do you generally move your bed and have to put the fabric into one dip and then let it aerate?
Oh, like the piece you see on that table, some of them dip like 15 times, like 10 times, like 8 times. You can see the blue is different. Some is very dark. So the more you dip it, sometimes it looks like a black because you keep dipping it. And that is our mentality back home. We just want to keep dipping it to make it so strong. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, go ahead. You just do the cold wash, which is some of my work right here is already set. But my advice with Indigo is just cold wash and hair dry. And if you want to use a soap, I will use like a 7th generation, like something like a Centrapol, like a little, nothing with no, yeah. And I will stay away from the dryer. Yeah, I will use air dry. And it will stay like that until when fabric gave up.
This shirt,
How many years?
like maybe 6 years.
6 years. And it still stayed the same.
It was softer, it was shiny.
Yeah.
When I first got it, but the fabric was soft, but.
Thank you. Yeah, go ahead.
So Indigo grows in different parts of the world.
It does.
Have you worked with Indigo from other places, and does it change on you?
It's I think I did not, even when I travel sometimes they have Indigo vats they prepare for me to use. But what I told them is I prefer to use my own Indigo. The reason why is some of Indigo, when I teach batik class with the wax, some of Indigo have to be a little warm. So when they're little warm, it's not good for paraffin wax to be able to crack with the effect. But when you use a cold vat, they're very cracking the way you really want to. That's the only thing I see with using the other vat, because you have to keep it a little warm. And it's not really good for Adire, which is cassava, because it's warm. It has to be cold vat. But I've tried, but it's just the blue. It doesn't give me, like, I know my indigo very well, how to set it. That is why a lot of people buy indigo from the Tuareg people. Those indigo is not dyed with. They beat them as a powder. When people wear it, they say, oh, indigo blow everywhere in my house because it's not dyed to the fabric. It's in the surface. And that is how there's something called retain. Retain, it was a chemical from Darama in California. People say, Gasali, help me out. My indigo can't stop running. I said, well, if it's from Tuareg, it's not dyed with the vat. It's all powder and bead up. That's why they look so purple and very shiny. But when you put them in the water, it doesn't stay. And there's so many indigo like that. I work with indigo in Oaxaca, Textile Museum. They bring me here for 3 or 4 times. And then I set my vat, the other Oaxaca artists do the same thing. But the reason why they bring me in here, because Cochini, it was take over the whole community, and they know there's indigo in Oaxaca to encourage the people in the environment to keep doing the indigo. But we did it, and it's very successful. So compared to African indigo and the Oaxaca
So
indigo.
how the very low compared to Oaxaca, so the Oaxaca is very low.
It's very good, but the darkness is different because it's from different plants. And then the method to do the fermentation is not similar to my.
So you went to Oaxaca?
I do.
No, fair.
Yeah. So please let me know if you have any questions. Go ahead. Is what?
So, like when you're leaving the business, and are there also dealing companies from there?
Yes. That's a very good question. It is. That is why, for the first thing, it relates to spiritual purpose, of course. And to your question, that is why I said indigo from beginning is not ordinary dye. This is go back to my mother again. When you have a young child, like 6-month-old baby, sometimes you hold them, they are not respond. People was like, oh my God, what is wrong with my child? It's not breathing very well. It's kind of have a little, my mom said, just hold on. It's all good. What she does, she just cuts small piece of fabric from indigo, and then she make it to smoky on the fire, and they kill the fire. So when the smoky rise, then she put the face of that baby to hail the indigo dye in his nose. Then you can see the baby was coughing right away, start coughing. And then where indigo is not really much for healing, but we use it as a sign that when you see, because in my culture, a lot of people go online, they read about what kind of religion do you practice in your environment. So indigo is one of them, because if you call yourself as a dyer in Nigeria, they thought your parent was a witchcraft, which is called Adire witchcraft. It's not a joke environment. There's a good witchcraft, and there's another one. They can whip you, they can discipline you, and those are the witchcraft you don't want to offend them. People always asking me, oh, if your mom was a witchcraft, I say, I'm sure she's a witchcraft, but it's a good one, So that is how, between the medicine man who collect the leftover indigo with the dyer, they have a little work together. Because when somebody do something wrong with the witchcraft, you sleep, you have a lot of scary dream like horror movie. So you go to the medicine man. The medicine man have to go talk to the witchcraft. Like, could you release him? Please forgive him. So, because that is the connection. Because the healing man tried to not let you have the bad dream anymore. Maybe you see the witchcraft coming in the village. He carries something in his head. Instead of saying, oh, ma'am, can I take it from you? You just walk past them. But they know you. Why you didn't respect them? Why you didn't treat them very well? They can punish people a little bit because of that. Then when you go to the healing man said, please, it's my daughter, it's my son. Could you let him go? You see, that is how the healing people and the witchcraft, that is their connection. They work together as a spiritual. And then to your question, sometimes when you go out in Africa, maybe tonight, I'm going back hotel where I stay here like middle of the night. Maybe there's a place around the corner here. The car doesn't drive through all the time. You can see they tied up the long cloth, which is going to be indigo cloth. Here, people put something called no trespassing. Don't come close here. This is our sign. You saw the indigo, nobody will tell you not to go there. You have to turn around. Like, something was going on here. What is going on there is called secret society. They come together middle of the night. So when they're gathering, they have something going on there. So when they put that fabric across the road, it was telling you, don't go past that place. Just make another U-turn. So that's another thing we use. And then, is, as I said from beginning, it's deeper than blue. You see somebody in Africa, they want to read their wallet in their pocket. When they put the wallet out, something falling on the ground. Like, you kind of like, oh my God, what is that? Also, although we call it voodoo. Voodoo is like a black power. Around that thing, they put a lot of different indigo tie-dye, indigo adire, all kind of indigo, and they stitch them with the needle with different color. So that thing is called protection. Because you fly, you're driving, you go around, because as a human being, you cannot live empty life in this life. You have to have something who can guide you day in, day out. That is what we believe. People go to the mosque to pray to Allah. People go to the church. It doesn't mean in Africa they believe in only Jesus. There is something under the clothes. People doesn't expose. And that is one of them. I don't know if I don't want to scare you, but that is how we grow up in the village. Because people say, oh, I'm a Muslim. Oh, I'm a Christian. Of course. Then when I ask my brother, he's a medicine man, why do you fasting? For Muslim fasting, he said, oh, why not? I thought you should focus on, on that one. You know what he said? He said, I believe in 3 in 1. The 3 in 1 means I have 3 gods. It's just not only one God. And that is how we operate in Africa. And for me, although I born to the Muslim community, but I never let my tradition left me to go away. No matter how you come to preach to me as a Christian or as a Muslim, I still believe in tradition. Because that is the only thing I believe it came from my grassroots of my great-grandparents. And it's already with me because I came from the god of water or some family. That is what I belong to. Everybody come from the Iyemaja, everybody come from Obatala, Sago, Orisauko, all those kind of things. And people say, oh, why do you worship devil? Esu, Esulalu, Ogirioko. People say, why do you worship the devil? We have to worship the devil in Africa because devil is a very nice person. But if you treat him very nicely, he can't hurt you. People say, oh, really? Esu is a very kind person, devil. That is what we call it in Nigeria, Esu. You see that big rock in the middle of the compound. some place in Africa, they put the red oil, they put the bitter cola, everything, because they have to worship him, because they know every time we're driving, we fly, we do all kind of things, and then you don't want to be in the wrong place in the wrong time. That is all about, because that is where the devil is always patronized. How do you not want him to touch you? But you have to worship him. Like, oh, this is Gasali. I know you. I won't get close to you. That is why I told you, devil is very kind person, but you have to worship him. That is why we're talking about the chicken today in the class. The chicken, you know, it have the reason why we raise them as a pet, but I raise them to make eggs. But at the same time, every year I have to put the blood on the ground. When I collect that blood, I go in front of my car and make a little mark like this in the front of my truck and the back of my truck with the fresh blood of chicken. Why? Because I was worshiping the devil. So when I was driving, I believe it's going to clear the way for me anywhere I go. So that is my belief. Although I say I'm a Muslim, but in the other hand, I still have something I worship. So, thank you, everybody. Thank you.